many of you have taken a standardized test in the past? I can guarantee that the majority, if not all of you, have taken some sort of standardized test in the past, whether that be the SAT or ACT, for example. The truth is, standardized testing is a great tool to make sure that all students are learning what they need to be learning and to test every student to a certain standard. However, standardized testing has led to a number of issues, such as taking the authority away from teachers, taking the art away from teaching, and even wasting taxpayer dollars. That being said, standardized testing is a great tool for academics. However, its influence has grown in schools and its problems along with it. So today, I'm here to argue that schools are heavily influenced by standardized testing and steps need to be taken in order to solve its problems. I'm going to be doing so in 3 steps. We're going to be talking about the problems, then the causes, and lastly, the solutions. So first, let's go ahead and talk about the problems. We're going to be looking at poor student learning, limiting college transfers, and wasting of taxpayers' money. First, let's look at poor student learning. According to the district administration on January 2nd, 2016, School Superintendent Urzio stated that standardized testing has led to formulaic teaching, dilution of curriculum, and teaching only the basics. With that being said, he supports standardized testing as being a tool for students and teachers. However, it leads to problems such as taking the art out of teaching, only teaching the basics, and preventing students from utilizing their concepts to real-world applications to help them later on. This is severely detrimental to their education. Next, let's look at limiting college transfers. According to the Daily Californian on February 5th, 2020, standardized testing disadvantages students of color, disabilities, and low income, and as a result, it lowers their transferability rates. These students that fit that demographic don't have the capabilities or the resources in order to compete against students who don't fit that demographic and have the resources. A lot of colleges focus heavily on standardized testing scores, and these students are disadvantaged to that, and there's a huge gap between these two groups because of standardized testing. Next, let's look at wasted taxpayer money. On Chalkbeat, according to Chalkbeat on February 9th, 2016, they reported that states are paying millions of dollars just for standardized testing. For example, in Indiana in 2016, they paid $24 million solely on standardized testing throughout the state. Where instead of using a more widely used Pearson's Pearson's standardized test that is used by more states, they decided to use a test that costed double as much as they needed to pay. A lot of these states, such as Indiana, are wasting taxpayer money on these standardized tests. And that $12 million that they spent extra could have gone to schools, programs, and teachers. So with that being said, let's go ahead and look at some of the causes. We're going to be looking at standardized testing developers, government programs, and public officials. So first, let's look at developers. We're going to be looking, according to the Honolulu Civil Beat on May 10th, 2016, they reported that standardized testing has grown due to big companies who leverage the profits made on their tests. So in other words, standardized testing developers understand that there is a demand for their tests. These schools pay the companies for their tests, and as a result, they pay more money. They are stressed, in order for them to do well on the exams, and these big developers just get more money. Next, let's look at government programs. According to Time Magazine on February 17, 2020, programs like No Child Left Behind and Race to the Top were originally enacted in order to support schools and academics. However, it's turned out that they reward schools who teach students how to pass and how to do well on these tests. So they strictly make curriculums based on testing well and high scoring. Whereas these other low-income schools and schools who are non-participatory get paid less. So these schools get richer, and these schools who participate in thinking outside the box and not teaching and teaching more creativity and not focusing their curriculum on the scores, get poorer. Next, let's look at public officials. According to Education Week on September 13, 2017, Republican Governor Chris Christie highly opposed teachers' unions and increased the weight of standardized testing. It's obvious to see that governors and public officials such as Chris Christie do not support teachers and doing things such as weighing in more and adding more weight to standardized testing is just simply exacerbating the problems that I talked about earlier. So lastly, let's go ahead and look at some solutions. We're going to be looking at increasing teacher authority and hiring, training, and educating specialized teachers. So first, let's look at giving power back to the teachers. According to the Tampa Bay Times on January 12, 2013, Senator Lee of Florida proposed that teachers be responsible for gauging and testing students. Doing so will allow teachers to have more authority in order to evaluate the students that they've been with for a long period of time and be able to give them more power to teach how they're supposed to teach what they have been, what they want to teach, and it allows schools to have less stress by allowing more freedom to give to teachers and not having to worry so much about funding and doing so much better on tests. Lastly, we're going to look at hiring, training, and educating specialized teachers. According to the Canadian Press on April 30th, 2018, a study showed that in 2016, Quebec schools who hire specialized teachers as early as the 7th grade perform significantly better throughout the years and are the leaders in standardized testing scores in the country, in Canada. Whereas Toronto, who does not participate in specialized teachers as that early, stayed stagnant and also did not score as high as Quebec. So with that being said, this is a great solution to keep standardized testing, but in order to get that demographic that was disadvantaged that I talked about earlier, to get their scores up, let's fund them and allow more specialized teachers to be able to teach them and to assist them and to give them the resources they need to be able to compete with other students who have the resources. So with that being said, today I've argued that schools are heavily influenced by standardized testing and steps need to be taken in order to address the problems that it comes with. So hopefully these solutions get explored and we stop looking at students as test scores and we start looking at them like young minds, fresh minds that can understand these concepts and apply them in their childhood, but to also apply them later in life in their adulthood. Thank you.